some levity here. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind the members that the motion was a two-part motion. It was to recall the Hawaii Religious Freedom Restoration Act, and at the appropriate time, Mr. Speaker, not now, but at the appropriate time, we would like a roll call vote, and we will be monitoring that and sharing that information with the faith-based community. Mr. Speaker, this motion is designed to heal our community, Mr. Speaker. This motion is designed to answer the 2,000 emails that we got, Mr. Speaker. This motion, Mr. Speaker, is designed to allow the free exercise. This motion will not stop compelling state interests. This motion balances religious liberty versus newly created rights. This motion will clarify, today, what we do today on this motion will clarify our support of faith. As you'll see when people raise their hands, raise them high so my office manager can see you. This motion today will protect the new minority. And Mr. Speaker, this motion, I am not doing it to be a troublemaker. As you are aware, I've talked to various members of leadership to avoid this very procedure that I'm doing today. So I tried to be a gentleman about it, Mr. Speaker. I didn't want to embarrass anyone. In fact, I didn't even, Mr. Speaker, this motion targets a vehicle that's not even my own, because I felt that if I made a motion to target my own vehicle, it probably wouldn't be received too well. This motion will protect people's free exercise of faith, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this motion gives voice to the 2,000 emails that we got. Now, Mr. Speaker, this motion is not designed to pull a scab off a wound. No, quite the contrary, Mr. Speaker. This motion is designed to heal a wound, Mr. Speaker. Now, some may roll their eyes at that, Mr. Speaker, and say this motion is you're picking at a scab. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm not. Mr. Speaker, this motion is designed to heal the wounds that have been aggravated this session by other measures that have pulled at that scab, but not in this vein. Mr. Speaker, this motion will give a voice to the voiceless. This motion addresses the new minority in our community. This motion will tell people of faith that they matter. This motion will enfranchise the disenfranchised. This motion says, we hear you. This motion, Mr. Speaker, this motion answers the 2,000 emails.
Mr. Representative McDermott, you are beginning to stray from the proprietary into the substance of the motion.
Mr. Speaker, I mentioned the motion in every sentence.
Yes, and very, very nicely.
Yes, I do.
Very nicely.
It's not my first rodeo. But I'm almost done, Mr. Speaker. This motion says you're important, Mr. Speaker. This motion tells the courts how we feel. Mr. Speaker, you know I have a lot of aloha for you and a lot of affection. And I come to this point to make this motion, not because I have any ill will towards you. I love you. You know that. In a manly way, though, I must point out.
Yes, I would hope so.
But, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this is designed so we can address that lingering, it is a scab. And so this motion will help us address that. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to close with the fact that we had 2,000 emails begging for the underlying vehicle that this motion addresses to be heard, or one of a slew. And Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that we address this because, as the Terminator says, I'll be back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Further discussion on the proprietary of this motion. Yes, Representative Rhodes.
Mr. Speaker, in opposition to the recall,
Please proceed.
I just want to point out to you and the body that during the special session last fall, there were 3 floor amendments, number 7, 8, and 9, that were identical to HB 1624, except for the preamble. All 3 of them were rejected by this body, except for the newly appointed representative from West Hawaii. And then there were 5 other floor amendments, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, that had significant
Speaker, what?
parts that were...
State your
I
point.
didn't believe he's out of order. He's not speaking to the motion at hand. He's rambling on about something else.
All right, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Representative. Please stick to the
speaking-
proprietary of the...
I'm speaking to why the motion should not be heard. House floor amendments 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 also contain exactly the same language. So this body has had many opportunities to discuss this language, and in fact, it has discussed this language over and over and over again, and therefore I oppose the recall. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, Representative Marcus Oshiro.
I rise in support of this motion to recall.
Please proceed.
The reason why I'm standing in support of the motion to recall on the procedural topic is that members need to understand that this is a constitutional provision that was enacted through the Constitutional Convention back in 1978, ratified by the voters of Hawaii. The purpose of the recall provision in the Constitution is for the ability of the minority within the legislative branch to make sure that it has the means and the authority to recall a bill from committee that may be bottled up by one individual or in individuals of the body, either in the House or in the Senate. In the House, where you have 51 members, you need to have, I think a requisite number is 17, 1/3 of the body need to vote in approval of the recall motion for the bill to be recalled from committee and brought before the body for its disposition. It's a constitutional provision, and the reason why I believe the delegates and I believe the people of Hawaii have ratified that is to avoid the oppression of the majority when the legislative body itself might benefit from a public hearing and a public discussion of issues important to the day. This particular bill before us, which is House Bill 1624, is something that I authored and I penned, and it's modeled upon federal legislation that was approved some years ago, back in 1993, in response to a United States Supreme Court's decision that basically overturned 40 years of law, whereby you had First Amendment rights and
Mr.
privileges.
Speaker.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker, point of order. We need to stick to
State
the
your point.
procedure. We need to stick to the procedural discussion on this measure, on this
Procedural
motion. Thank you.
Please stick to the procedure of the recall, please.
I was just trying to give some background, Mr. Speaker, on the need for this recall. Let me try and get back to the importance of this recall motion and why, as a Democrat member of the Democrat caucus, I'll be standing here supporting a Republican motion for a recall from a committee chaired by a Democrat member of my Democrat caucus. I go back to the Constitution again, Mr. Speaker. This measure has never had a public hearing. There was reference made to it being introduced as a floor amendment during the special session this fall, but there was never any public hearing on it. The purpose of this motion is to engage the public and being transparent in our decision making and afford the public to weigh in and the member of this body to weigh in for and against any and all measures. And that's why you have this kind of debate and discussion. And that's why you have this authority, Mr. Speaker. Because the people of Hawaii were concerned that a minority or a faction could bottle up an idea, a proposal, against the wishes of the majority of the people of Hawaii, the majority of the members. So they created this vehicle to bring it to the public's attention and the light to bear upon this issue. We're not talking about the merits of the bill today, and that's inappropriate. We're talking about bringing the bill back for discussion, and that's appropriate, Mr. Speaker. And upon that basis and at that principle of the Constitution and what it means, I stand here in strong support of this recall motion. Thank you.
All right, Representative, thank you very much. If not, then...
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, Representative Fale.
I rise in support of the motion.
On a procedural basis, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first, I would like to have the words of the representative from Wahiwa adopted as if they were my own.
Sure.
And in addition to that, Mr. Speaker, this is a motion that allows, you know, it's very rare, Mr. Speaker, to have thousands of people send in testimony in regards to an issue, Mr. Speaker. And this motion, and as was stated by the previous speaker, opens the door and gives the opportunity for democracy to be what it was supposed to be, which is supposed to represent the people. Again, Mr. Speaker, this motion allows to help us to do our job. Very rare, thousands, Mr. Speaker. Very rare is it that thousands of people are turned away, and when they approach this building, they find closed doors because there's no interest in hearing what they have to say. This motion, Mr. Speaker, is a simple request to allow a bill to be heard, which is important to tens of thousands of people in the state of Hawaii. And so for those very reasons, Mr. Speaker, and given what was referenced to as a wound that has scabs on it, Mr. Speaker, I don't even know if it's gone that far. I think the wounds are still very raw and very open. And if this body is interested in putting forward some measure to allow those wounds to start to heal, an olive branch needs to be extended, Mr. Speaker, and this motion puts us on that path. And for those reasons, I support the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you very much. It calls for limited debate. I believe we need
Speaker?
to... Yes, Representative Ward.
May I have some brief remarks in support of the measures?
State
Support of the
state your
procedural
remarks.
proprietary motion. Speaker, I don't believe there's any harm that will be caused by this motion to hear this bill. I mean, what's controversial about a bill that already passed the Congress in 1993, signed by Chuck Schumer, signed by Edward Kennedy? Even our governor voted for it in the House. There's nothing that's really going to harm us by doing this, which is a procedurally appropriate thing in democracy. Anthropologists have established the fact that reciprocity is the basis of all relationship. We are the transmission, if you will, of reciprocity. Each side of the community deserves to be heard, equally so, Speaker. So any damage that would be caused by hearing this bill, I believe, is not appropriate, and the passage of this procedurally is simply a part of our job by hearing a part of our community, which now from 1993 now contemporarily to 2014 is more relevant now than ever. But it's an innocuous bill that people have approved from both sides of the aisle. This is a Democrat and a Republican issue, but mostly it's an American issue, as I had spoken of earlier. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. A roll call vote has been announced. Representative Jordon, please proceed.
I'm speaking in support of the recall.
Okay, proceed. On
Yes.
the proprietary of the motion.
That's correct, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, it was my understanding this is the People's House. In less than 6 days, I received almost 2,500 emails requesting this measure get a hearing. And I believe we owe that transparency to our constituents out there, Mr. Speaker. And this provides an opportunity for this measure to be heard. Is my understanding. I haven't heard a hearing for this measure at all this session or in the last 3 years that I've been here. And I think this provides a venue where we can at least discuss it. And I'll be supporting the recall vote.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you
Mr.
very
Speaker.
much.